two players get into a fight. Some players start screaming at Russell Wilson, and then Nathaniel Hackett just stands there. A few people yell at Russell Wilson. Nathaniel Hackett's there with his clipboard, puts on his sunglasses, just kind of crawls back into his hole. It's like, that's unacceptable from your head coach. It's like two players are screaming at each other on the sideline. You're just like, what do you make of that?
Oh, he's completely over his head. But we already know this. Was I surprised when I saw that? No. I'm like, oh, yeah. This is how he is.
He has that happy to be here face. You know who he reminds me of? You know the guy from Vacation who's always like, hey, man. The like crazy guy from Vacation who's like kind of homeless. And then he's in the military, has the plastic thing in his head. He's like that guy who's just like, I'm happy to be here. And he has that permanent look on the sideline. It's like, wow, they really hired me to be a head coach.
I mean, he's getting a bag from them, so good for him. But imagine if you're the Broncos, right? And this is the thing that's really funny about this whole thing. We'll get to the Broncos in a second. But imagine you go back to when they placed this trade for Russell Wilson, right? And you envision what week 12 looks like. Your first season with Russell Wilson, after you just signed him to a 5-year deal, $250 million. Did you envision that when you had the Panthers on your schedule, that your team would have the worst offense in the league, that your team would be the most disappointing team of the year so far, the worst team to watch in the NFL, and be 3-8, and be, if you had your pick and you didn't give it to Seattle, you'd be a top 5 pick right now.
Right.
Did you think that when you made that trade, that was what you were envisioning? Absolutely not. And the Broncos are so screwed because until 2026, they can't get rid of Russell Wilson, because if they do, they're going to have a $80 million cap hit if they cut him.
Yeah.
And if they trade him, it's no better. So they are literally stuck with Russell Wilson.
It's not better if they trade him?
Yeah, if they trade him, it's still $40 million cap hits. It's like, at that point, you might as well keep him, right? Maybe.
What?
No? I don't know.
Yeah, but why is Hackett still there? How long do they have to pay him for?
I would think they signed him for a year.
Yeah.
They can get rid of Nathaniel Hackett anytime they want, but they
haven't.
Aren't.
Like, that's a huge organizational red flag when Nathaniel Hackett is still there, when Peyton Manning and John Elway, Shannon Sharp, all these guys are involved in the organization. Hackett's still there. And then you get outplayed by Sam Darnold, of all people, who comes off injury reserve, has his best game of his career, maybe his signature win, probably. And there's not many to point to. And then you have to go online and Colin Cowherd's like, Tom Brady lost today. Sam Darnold won. Just live with that.
Yeah, I don't want to hear him ever talk about it.
But he beat Russell Wilson and your beloved Broncos, who you picked to go to the Super Bowl. So it's just like, when I envisioned the Broncos at week 12, this point of the season, I was like, oh, they're fighting for a wild card spot. Well, the Chiefs are leading the division and Patrick Mahomes is the MVP favorite. Got the second part right. The Broncos part? Hell no. They've been awful. It's inexcusable with that roster, too. It's like, I get you lost Javonte Williams, but there's a reason they're paying you $200 million. They're not paying you $200 million to play worse than Sam Darnold.
He's played worse than Mitch Trubisky this year, too. Numbers-wise, matches up.
Yeah. He's played worse than Carson Wentz this year, who hasn't played in 6 weeks.
He hasn't played since week 6, and he has more touchdowns than Russell Wilson.